Today's episode, I'm really excited to have my guest with me, Chris Gray from Sweet Science Boxing Gym. Chris, I want to welcome you to today's show.
How you doing? How's it going?
I am good, man. I'm really excited. We are talking today about the aspect of determination, passion for things in life, and using ourselves for our past to fuel us. And I love being able to tap into people's stories of what has driven you. And you, my friend, are and have had over 28 years of boxing experience, 65 amateur fights, 35 professional. Boom, right? One HBO pay-per-view. I'm like, the man, don't mess with him, right? You're truly an inspiration, and with what you're doing with your skills and what the talent God's given you, really connecting with so many people in our community. For the past 28 years, you've been boxing. What, Chris Gray, led you to the world of boxing? The good, the bad, and in between, my friend.
First of all, I was a little kid in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and my older cousins used to, take me as the younger sibling to the back street. And on the back street, they had kids that were very aggressive. You know, I lived in South Baton Rouge, where it was close to a college campus, LSU, to be exact. And it was known as the Little Hood. So, like I said, my cousins would take me to the back street, and then we would have to duke it out with other guys or their friends, little brothers or their cousins. So we'd all have fights back there. And, when it was my turn to fight, my cousin would always be like, well, my little cousin Chris, he got some hands. So, we would all jump out and start fighting, and then may the best man win. So I would come out on top with most of the kids, and that's how it started, with some backyard street fighting.
Okay.
And from there, I always had fighting in my blood, because I fought almost, since I was a baby on the back street. I'd come up fighting. And as I grew older, we kind of moved away from, the rough city where we were at, because we got our bikes stolen. We've had people break into our houses. So we just got kind of tired of living in that type of area. So we moved north to Baker. And, I was going to school doing all sports, basketball. I played football. I did a number of things. And one day I went to a track and a field event, and I saw the guys doing some short sprints. And I talked to the guys. They were doing some different sprints. Some of the guys were doing like 10-yard sprints. Some guys were doing 100-yard sprints. And then I actually went out there and I talked to the coach. And I asked him what he was doing. He said, well, we're boxers, so we're doing different types of sprints to, peak our heart rate and elevate our hearts. I said, okay, cool, man. I said, well, I think I'd like to try boxing. So from there, he pointed me to the gym, North 14th Street Boxing. That's in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, of course, North 14th Street. Shout out to Coach Frank James. He died maybe about 5 or 6 years ago. And my heart goes out to him and his family, man, because he was a great motivator, and he was a great positive feedback in my life at that time. So anyway, he invited me to the gym, and I went in there. The first day, he throws me in the ring, and I'm in there with a guy that already had like 4 or 5 fights. So he was like, all right, let's get in there and see what you're all about. So, man, I jumped in the ring, and this guy, Sylvester, he just came at me, man. He starts wailing on me. I kind of put my hands up, and only thing I knew how to do since I was a kid was fight back. So I start punching back, and, man, I started really getting into it. And so we were going at it, man. So at the end of that, I came out on top, and the coach was just so impressed. He was like, my goodness, kid. He said, bro, you should definitely be a boxer. He said, come back tomorrow. You start training. We'll get you signed up. So I had to get all my stuff together, and then I brought my mom down. He got me signed up, and that's how it started. And I started going in the gym every day, just jump roping, shadow boxing, hitting the bag. And then I ended up going to the Junior Olympics in Northern Michigan University. And I fought the national championships. I fought, fights in Baton Rouge. We had a place called Catfish Town, and it was in the downtown area of Baton Rouge. That's how I got into boxing, and that's how it all became, real true to me that I was going to be a boxer. But I never knew that I would be a professional fighter. This was an amateur, level.
Throughout the course of your 28 years, were there any kind of obstacles that kind of came your way that you felt like could have held you back, but in the long run made you stronger?
There was a season in my life where I kind of ventured off into alcohol and drugs, and, all my guys would come and watch me fight, but then there was the partying, there was all the hanging out and all the celebrating, and I kind of overdid it, I kind of got into the outside stuff instead of keeping my focus and my brain on the inside stuff. That's the boxing ring, and all of that stuff kind of caught up with me. So from there, I ended up having a kid at an early age. I ended up, doing drugs, getting caught up on alcohol, and it just seemed like everything that I had going for me was moving further and further away from me. That stuff took my motivation. It took my drive away from something that I was very passionate about and something I was very gifted at. And like I said, I gained weight. Oh man, I had a big battle with depression, a big battle with just confusion, and just crazy, man. It was such a crazy thing, but I do remember those moments. And I started hopping, going back more and more, hopping around bar to bar, pillar to post, in the streets. I started selling drugs then to try to make money. And, one day that caught up with me. So from me getting out there in the street more and more, I had to make money to survive. And my life totally changed. And then I started selling the drugs and started making money, started meeting people that come from different places, and just doing things that were under the radar that, that just happened just from being in the street life, I would say. And man, I remember those days. They weren't pretty. They were not pretty. I had a lot of fear. I had a lot of hatred, a lot of unforgiveness. I did lose my kid in Houston. Me and his mom fell apart at that time, and she moved to Houston. I lived in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. It's 4 hours away. She took, my son to Houston to live there, but me and her were divided. So I couldn't see my son for so long, man. I lost him it was just crazy. I lost him in all of this stuff, and, I was at the bottom. I was really low. I was at a place to where there was no hope. There was no way I could have came back, but
you had shared that it was...
That's how it ended.
Yeah, you shared that it was a season for you, Chris. Was there like a
Yes.
moment that you were like, okay, I can't run in fear anymore. I can't have this lifestyle. This just isn't going to happen. Was it a moment, or was it a series of events?
Well, I would say it was a series of events, from everything just going south. And, there was a night where I went home and me and my mom got into an argument. And, this is like a series of events. Everything was already going the wrong way. I told you what happened. And me and my mom got in a crazy argument about me being out, being in the street, being in the world, and, not doing anything with myself. And we got in a crazy argument. So I took a trip to the grocery store, maybe like a quarter mile down the street. I walked there, went to grab me a beer. I remember clearly. I went to get me a drink, and just to clear my head so we can, decompress from the argument we just had. And as I was walking out of the store, I was drinking the beer, walking home. And then out of the back of my ear, I hear a guy yell, "Hey, Chris." So, I'm looking around like, "Whoa, what's up?" And then after that, I start walking again, and I hear 3 or 4 gunshots fired. Pow, pow, pow. And then I just started trying to move and duck, but I couldn't move because, I was already hit. And, I paused, and I started patting my body down. And, the shots were so loud and so clear that I knew they were coming for me. But, as I was in that moment, when I was patting my head, I could feel there was a glow or aura around me. And I can tell that, it was like different. And, I started to walk away. and I noticed I wasn't bleeding and I wasn't hit and I wasn't hurt. So, I kind of shook away a little bit. Then I started kind of jogging. Then I sprinted home. And then, the Lord was always, telling me to turn the other way, but I just never really listened to him. And something was always telling me, don't do this, don't do that, do this, do that, go wake up, go to church in the morning. But I'd be like, oh, come on, that's just a simple, pat on the back. That ain't real. There can't be somebody. I'm talking to myself. So pretty much, I got into a moment where I fell from grace, where I just had everything happen once. But man, once I knew I was alive, something sparked in my body. There was a crazy energy and spiritual flow that just made me want to not live another day in that type of lifestyle with that type of stuff happening to me. So that was my moment. That was the moment where I was like, oh my goodness, Lord, you're keeping me alive for a reason. Now let me go out here and live my life to the fullest, because this was a wake-up call for me. I know I was pretty much shot. I felt something hit my head, but then I also felt like a glow, an aura, just something protecting me and covering my head from gunshots. And it was such a miraculous thing that I couldn't deny it. So from that second, I ran home, packed my bags, and then I started heading to Vero Beach. But on my way to Vero Beach, I know I had people looking for me. I couldn't go to the bus station the same. I couldn't get on, I couldn't travel the same. I couldn't go in the same hoods. I had to sneak my way and crawl my way out of Louisiana, out of Baton Rouge, just so I can live a life. You know what I mean? I felt like I was escaping Cuba or something like that, and somebody was going to catch me and bring me back and assassinate me. It was just that deep. I had no idea, but I was into so many crazy things with drugs and alcohol. I meddled with crystal meth. There was weed. There was crack, cocaine. There were drugs. There were ladies. I mean, there were houses. There's so many stupid things that I was doing, and it was all like, wow, this is not the way a man should live his life. This is not the end, and that's why I came to Vero Beach, and I was already boxing, so I actually had a friend that fought Mike Tyson that worked out in my gym in Louisiana, North 14th Street, as I said, in the Breck Gym. And he was always trying to, tell me, hey, man, you can fight. He said, maybe you should come down to Vero with me and, start training to be a pro. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe one day. But, after that happened, him and I got together. I actually drove down with him, and we started training together. And then from that moment on, I started training with world champion fighters. Arturo Gatti was a guy that was he was from New Jersey, and he was a major fighter at the time. I got a chance to work with those guys, and then as I was going through that process, I didn't have anything, so I had to pretty much live on my own. I had to ride a bike, I had to live in a hotel. I had to work at a restaurant as a dishwasher, but every night I would pick up my Bible and I would read my Bible. And I started from the New Testament. I didn't know where to go, but I just opened Matthew, and I started reading the book of Matthew. Then I went to the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. But as I was reading, I really focused my attention on learning something, because everything I did before was jacked up, was all messed up, and I didn't have any skills. I didn't have any resources. I didn't have any tools. So I really opened my heart to kind of listen to what God might have been speaking to me in those moments. And it really paid off, because I started building my faith up. My confidence came back. I started running up and down the street, 1 mile, 2 miles. Then I got up to like 12 miles a day. And then there was a promotional company named Silverhawk Promotions. They came all the way from Vegas to Vero Beach, and they were looking for fighters. And I so happened to walk in the gym that day, and I was already preparing my body. I was already in shape. And then I ended up sparring with a guy that was like 17-0. He had 15 knockouts, and he was one of the top prospects. And man, I went in there and I let him have it. I mean, it's like, just like I told you, when I fought the first kid in the boxing ring, and the coach was like, you should box. I brought that same mentality to the table. So this kid was already established as a pro, but I didn't let that scare me. So I jumped in the ring, man, and, you know, he wailed on me for the first round or two, but I looked him in his eyes and I said, don't get tired. You know, with that comment, I'm carrying a lot of depression. I'm carrying defeat. I'm carrying, you know, near death. I'm carrying Louisiana with me. So my drive was a different drive. He would have had to kill me to get me out of there at that time. So my motivation was to win no matter what happened. And, man, I got back into the third round, and, boy, he took one gasp for, like, air. I saw him do that, and I knew he was getting tired. So I stepped up the pace, and I really started weighing on him really heavy. And, man, I beat him down. I ended up stopping him. They stopped the whole sparring session in the third or fourth round. And one of the guys says, sign him up, sign him up. That boy fight like Ali. He fight like Ali. Sign him up. So it was a great moment, man. And when I beat that guy, nothing happened right away. About a month later, the promotion company, they reached out to me and said, Chris Gray, we'd like to sign you to a deal for Silverhawk Promotions for 2 years with a signing bonus and a monthly pay. So I was getting paid $1,000 a month. And they gave me like a $5,000 signing bonus. And like I said, I had no money. I lived in a hotel. I lived in the shack, and I did dishwashers. So all of this stuff happened. But the first thing I did was I stopped doing what I wanted to do and focused on what God was trying to get me to do with him. And that was open my Bible. That was read my word. That was give him, you know, the glory that he deserved. And he turned my life around. And that's why I'm here today.
It's a like monumentally impressive, encouraging story. And, you know, as I heard, you actually made an analogy earlier on where you were like, you know, I got distracted. Instead of focusing on what was going on in the ring, I let outside stuff distract me. And that had me thinking automatically, that's us in life, right? Where we can get so distracted by stuff that essentially are just weights that keep us from being in the ring and being effective in life. And so what I love about what your testimony is the fact of that you have gone through a heck of a lot, but keeping grounded, your faith, and that how ultimately, like, I mean, legit on that night, you should have been dead, but God protected you. For someone who might be thinking, man, you know, I've screwed up. I've made some mistakes. But how can I go forward without sticking and clinging to the mistakes I've made? What do you say to that person about the ability to look forward and using their stuff to motivate them and make their present better?
Once I realized that the stuff that came against me was my boxing, that was my fight. It wasn't just, you know what I mean? That the fight is inside. So, you know, I would say the people that are going through depression, the people that are going through worry and fear or struggling to know that they don't have anything, you know, to do in this world, you know, go back to like the first floor of your life. Go back to something great that you did and start there. Go back and find hope in something positive that you were doing before you got into the mess you got in. You know what I mean? And from there, then you got to give it to God. I mean, if it's something that happened when you were a kid, I would say, go back to that place, get on that floor, and let's give it to God, and let's let him bring the healing in that you need, or the help and concern that you need, and fight that demon, and then win that battle first, and then keep moving forward. You know, keep moving forward.
It is. I think the going forward and dealing with our stuff, but going forward is so critical. I also think what goes hand in hand is finding things that we can be passionate about. I will tell you this, like when I was looking for probably 2 years to find a gym where I could box, where I could be with other women, right? And in terms of empowerment and getting in shape and that serotonin, and it's an amazing thing. And yes, boxing isn't for everybody, but I will say what is for everybody. Finding that stoke, finding things to get connected with that get your body revved up. Because when we don't, that's where that like depression can creep in, anxiety can creep in, those fears. When we find things to fuel us, that it's like, dude, I just threw that that amazing punch, or I did 3 minutes, which I have survived. Chris Gray, right? 3 minutes on the bag, right? Just going. You feel really good about yourself, and I do not think there's enough of that with people where you can just feel crappy about yourself. God made you with purpose and intention. And whether it's boxing, whether it's whatever, going for a run, finding your connection, and and that's such an amazing thing to find. And would you say, what are some other things that you would kind of lend in terms of advice about finding that connection for people to get that serotonin going, get that purpose, get that belief in yourself and your abilities of your natural talents that God's given you?
My heart is in my family, my wife, my kids, man. And so that's my drive and my motivation and my passion. It's not about me anymore. I had my chance to live, and I had my chance to fight. Even though I'm still moving forward, now I have my hands connected to other people's lives. So that is my drive and my passion to do better, to do greater things, because now I get to pour into the people that are behind me and let them make their mistakes, and I'm the one that's been through these things, and I can kind of look at their lives and be like, boys, your dad, I've been there. I know what it feels like. I've had these mistakes. I've had these faults. So one of the key things I would say is, once you find that thing that helps to keep you on the right path, to keep you focused, like my kids are real. And their future is real to me. And I realize that every day they get older and time flies. I'm like, boy, you're wearing a size 7. I wear 9 or 11. And you're already in the 7. So time flies. It's moving. So my kids remind me that I'm aging and I'm going to run out of time. So that motivates me. Time's ticking. How? You need to find out. Like my kids, like I said, they're moving fast as well. So if I don't move, I won't be effective for them. So, you got to find something that's going to really drive you to move forward. If you're sitting on the couch and you're eating bad food, you know what I mean? And you need to work out. The time is ticking. You know what I'm saying? You're going to get fatter. You're going to get slower. But if you start moving today, you'll change your life. It just takes one step at a time. I didn't always want to read the Bible. I didn't always want to get help like that. But something happened to me to where I got fed up. A lot of us, we just got to have a point in our life that we're fed up with worrying about what people think, worrying about what somebody's going to say to us. Get out there, and whatever you have, use it to the best of your ability, because you only get one life. You only get one shot. Well, I got 2, so thank you, Jesus. You don't know if you'll get that second shot. So you got to live your life to the fullest and find some type of comfort or a connection to a church or a connection to positive people like Aaron right here that wants to speak goodness into your life, and then build off of that. Stay around the right types of people. Iron sharpens iron, and allow yourself to be humble and to be honest and have an honest opinion about yourself and where you are in your life. Confession is one of the best keys. Let it go, and let God. And he'll help you find your way.
I think that last part you said is so monumental, where the ability to just let go, the ability to kind of let go of the baggage that we've had that sometimes we can blame ourselves for, or cling to things that have been traumatic and just gutting, that then begin to define us when it doesn't have to be. And just letting it go. We got one shot at life. And yes, that takes, holy cow, time. And it takes courage and it takes persistence, but it can happen. I've lived through it in my own life, and how when you make that step, dude, you just walk 1,000 pounds lighter. And getting that vision, life is really about. It is so short, it's so fleeting, and the ability to just learn and become stronger through the past. But also, I love what you're doing at Sweet Science, your gifts and your talents, you're passing on to other people, and that empowerment from little kids, to someone who's older, it's beautiful and it's contagious. And so, Chris, as we kind of wind down today, I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining me. I want to say, if you live in Vero Beach or within an hour of Vero Beach and you're looking at get your stoke on, you're like, I've been looking for boxing for a really long. When I tell you there's just something about that place, I encourage you to check them out. Sweet Science, they're in Vero Beach. And I'll drop the link in the comments below. Be sure to check them out. And then, Chris, I want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for joining me today. Is there any last words that you want to leave me with and our listeners with?
God has given me the ability to stay humble and remember how far I came from. And that's what I would tell somebody. It's about taking the smallest things in life and allowing the Lord to make them the best things ever. And that's why Sweet Science is there. That's my church. That's my building. That's where I'm able to be effective for my community. And that's my gift from God to the world, because I've been there 13 years and I don't plan on going nowhere as long as the Lord allows me to stay there. So that's why I'm there.
And I appreciate you joining me today. And I just want to wish all of my listeners, as you tune in, know you are of value. Your past has the ability, if we let it, to fuel us instead of consume us. And know that you are a gift and a blessing. And as we go in today, wishing you a tremendous amount of peace, love, and goodness.